From your local election headquarters, this is Eyewitness Newsmakers with your hosts, Jayne and Bugda and Andy Mehalshick.
From your local election headquarters, I'm Jayne and Bugda.
And I'm Andy Mehalshick. Today we are focusing on the race for governor. That's the matchup between incumbent Democrat Tom Wolf and Republican challenger Scott Wagner. Now, we recently interviewed Scott Wagner on the issues important to you.
We also extended an invitation to Governor Tom Wolf, who has acknowledged the invitation, but as of this date has not set up an interview.
And we'll then be joined by our political analyst team of David Yonkai, Dr. David Sosar, and attorney Chris Cullen. We'll also talk with election officials about the pending new voting system here in the Commonwealth.
A reminder, information on all of our candidates can be found on pahomepage.com. Newsmakers from your local election headquarters will begin right after this.
And welcome back to Eyewitness Newsmakers from your local election headquarters. Our segment in this part of the program involves our interview with Republican candidate for governor, Scott Wagner. Mr. Wagner, thanks for being here today.
Happy to be here.
Let me start off with the first question, very basic, of course. Tell the folks at home a little bit about yourself, your background, and why you're running for governor.
Okay, real quickly, I grew up on a farm in York, Pennsylvania, York County. I've started multiple businesses. In 2014, being a very fed up business person, I made a decision to run for the state Senate, won a write-in campaign, and ended up in Harrisburg being sworn into the Senate in April 14. And what I saw in Harrisburg was just mind-boggling to me. I'm a private sector business guy, used to getting things done. I don't see Harrisburg working. I served in the Senate for 4 years, served on major committees. And after watching the dysfunction of Harrisburg, watching this failed governor for the last 4 years, I made a decision to run for governor. Things aren't getting done in Pennsylvania, and I made a decision to run because I'm a get-it-done guy, and that's in my DNA.
So, Mr. Wagner, tell us, what is your top priority in running for governor?
Well, top priority, number one, we're a bankrupt state. We're bankrupt. We have a $70 billion pension crisis. We have more potholes than I've ever seen in the last 4 to 5 years. More trash along highways. We have a skilled labor crisis. There's many different things. But number one, we're going to balance the checkbook here in Pennsylvania. We're going to go to zero-based budgeting. We're going to find out how much money we have and what we don't have. And I believe by zero-based budgeting and balancing our checkbook, we're going to find $1.5 to $4 billion the first year. And then we're going to move on and we're going to start becoming financially responsible. I mean, again, I talked about this pension crisis, and there are many other things that we have to solve, and it's going to take money without raising taxes.
We thought one big hot button issue, of course, is property tax reform. It seems, and I said this before, it's like the weather. People talk about it, but nothing ever gets done. What's your approach on that? What's your opinion on it? And what can we do to eliminate property tax or reform it in some way?
Well, my opinion on property taxes, number one, we've been hearing this for 20 years. I've traveled the state for over 4 years, and I hear this issue everywhere. I hear it from seniors especially. And I've made a pledge to the people of Pennsylvania, and I'm not making this up, and I'm not saying this just as a election tactic. If you vote for me and I become the next governor, I will eliminate the school taxes on your home. I know how to do it. We talked about zero-based budgeting. We talked about balancing our checkbook. And I was a supporter of Senate Bill 76. Seniors, especially in Pennsylvania, need property tax relief. I mean, we're in Wilkes-Barre. I was told that the poverty level is around 75%. And so people need property tax relief. And I can assure the people of Pennsylvania we're going to get it done. And I have the relationships in the House and Senate to get it done.
And Mr. Wagner, do you support an oil and gas severance tax?
I do not support a severance tax because we already have a severance tax in place, and it happens to be called an impact fee. And that impact fee has been in since 2012, and it collects, a significant amount of money. And I believe last year was $217 million. So no, I do not support a severance tax because, let me be clear, when that bill, Act 13 of 2012 was passed, it was specific and said that in the event a severance tax is ever passed, the impact fee sunsets, which means it goes away. So if you enacted a severance tax, the amount of money collected via a severance tax would be less than what is collected currently by the impact fee.
Mr. Wagner, there's been some talk around the Commonwealth about possibly legalizing marijuana and using it to gain revenue for for the state's coffers. What's your take on that?
Number one, I was a supporter of the medical marijuana initiative, but I am clearly and adamantly opposed to any recreational legalization of marijuana. Number one, I employ several hundred truck drivers. But you know what, the thought that here we go again, that why don't we legalize marijuana so we can make money and we can generate more taxes? I mean, I think it's time we stop having this mindset. And that's what I honestly am hearing from the Democrats right now. Marijuana is clearly, in the lives of some people, is a gateway drug, and we have a heroin opioid crisis that is off the charts. It's in this city here, so absolutely not. Will never sign a bill to legalize marijuana.
And jobs are always on everyone's mind. How do we attract more jobs to the Commonwealth, more high-paying jobs, and then how do we retain those jobs here in the Commonwealth?
Well, there's a myth that we need to bring more jobs to Pennsylvania, when in fact we have between 200 and 400,000 skilled labor positions open today. And so if we have 975,000 employers in Pennsylvania, if we cut that in half and just 500,000 employers hired one person, we don't have 500,000 people. So, yes, we want to attract industry into the state. We always want to do that, new customers, but we need to start filling the jobs that are open right now. Everywhere you go, we're looking at blue collar, high-skilled trades jobs. Welders, 65,000. Potentially up to 100,000. Mechanics making 80, 90. We're talking high-paying, skilled labor positions, and you know what? They're blue-collar positions. I grew up on a farm. I'm a blue-collar guy. So that means in the blue-collar trades, you get dirt under your fingernails, but you end up making very good money. So we need to find the people to fill those jobs.
Okay, one last question. We'd like you to, if you can, address the camera and tell the folks in our part of the Commonwealth why they should support Scott Wagner.
Well, number one, I would like to ask the people of Pennsylvania, can you name one thing that Governor Wolf has accomplished in the last 3 years? If you can, please reach out to my campaign. I'd love to hear that. Number one, our governor has been a failed governor for the last 3.5 years. He attempted to put through a $4.5 billion tax increase in 2015. And I can assure the people of Pennsylvania, the hardworking Pennsylvanians, that if Governor Wolf is reelected, he is going to be back next year with the most massive tax increase in Pennsylvania history of between $4 and $6 billion, and it may even go to $6 to $8 billion. You will never see property tax or school tax elimination on your home under Governor Wolf. If you want to change and you want a governor who's going to get things done, I'm the guy for the job.
Well, Scott Wagner, Republican candidate for governor, thank you so much for stepping in today and allowing our viewers to learn a little bit more about you. To learn more about Scott Wagner, head to pahomepage.com. We're under the Newsmakers and local election headquarters link, and we'll be back right after this.
Welcome back to your local election headquarters. Andy Mehalshick, along with producer Jayne and Bugda, and our three political analysts, David Yonkai, Dr. Dave Sosar from King's College, and attorney Chris Cullen from the Lackawanna area. Let's start with Dave Yonkai. We're talking about the race for governor, of course. Big doings going on. What's your take on it?
Well, first of all, there's no truth to the rumor that Scott Wagner's campaign song is Excitable Boy by Warren Zevon. Okay, that's not true at all, so let's just stop that at all. But if you see what's been happening the last couple of weeks in the campaign, Wagner is excitable. And this last thing that happened with the Facebook video, I could understand where he was coming from with it, because it was taken in front of a billboard where he was accused by the Wolf campaign of actually suing Pennsylvanians. And he was, because he needed money for past due bills on his business. And he is a businessman right from the core, and he was very annoyed at that. And he should have stopped, because he gave a really good presentation going against that billboard and giving his side of the story, and he should have stopped, but then he went on with the stomping comment, and that was not good, and he had to walk it back. But when you when you have something that's out there, it's out there, unfortunately, and he took it down.
Well, and the good thing is that he took it down. The unfortunate thing is, on the internet today, once it gets out there, even just for a few seconds, it's grabbed.
Yep.
And it will be held on to. I can understand his frustration. This was a story that he had handled earlier in the campaign, and he had mentioned why and how, as a businessman, people who owe him money, he's got to take action against. I thought he had answered it pretty well in just explaining it in some newspaper columns, but unfortunately this time it was a little too far. He's a frustrated man. I believe at this point, if you watch the two of them, Governor Wolf has this almost, as he speaks to or about Wagner anytime he can, has a condescending kind of attitude, almost a projection of better or a patronizing outlook. Wagner is the fighter. He's I rose up through my ranks. I made it. I deserve better than what I'm being treated as. I wish there was some way, in all seriousness, take all these ads and you know, I'm for television's sake, I'm not trying to say don't air them, but I really do wish that people would take the time, not so much the ads themselves, which sometimes have a little bit more wrapped around it than just all the truth, and really go to their websites. Look at the candidates themselves. What do they stand for? Who are they supporting? What issues do they think are the most important? I really do believe that that's what has to be done. And there's no good way to get an incumbent or someone who has a decent lead to be forced to do that. That's part of the problem that we have in the politics today.
Chris?
Well, I think the meltdown comment has been well handled. I would like to point out that one of the things that may frustrate Scott Wagner is when Tom Wolf ran for governor the first time, he said he was going to be a different kind of a governor. And that's very true. The last 4 years he has taken on various roles that heretofore not too many governors played. All to the betterment of the Commonwealth. Regardless of the meltdown, Tom Wolf has a great record so far of doing those things that he can do with the Republican-dominated legislature and get things done for the Commonwealth. It's limited, mind you, but at least there's a record of accomplishment. And the most important part of the meltdown, and I appreciate that he was trying to explain something, but the most important part of the meltdown is that it just undercut any credibility as to having the temperament, the maturity, the knowledge, and the experience to be governor, and that's exactly what he was running on. So when you undercut your own 4 pillars of your key message, you kind of undercut your own candidacy. And these candidates, especially in the governor's race, are going to have an effect on all the down ballot races, especially those close races in this area dealing with Congress. And because the nature of the turnout will be favoring the Democratic incumbent in many respects and will be depressing the Republican turnout.
And Chris, to your point, I think when you're going up against an incumbent like Wolf did against Governor Corbett in 2014, you have to present yourself as a reasonable alternative to that person. And that has not been done, unfortunately, by the Wagner campaign.
Absolutely. You're right on target with that.
Well, gentlemen, we want to thank you for weighing in, and we do want to remind everyone that we did extend an invitation to Governor Wolf to come on our program. He acknowledged our invitation, but as of yet has not yet set up a date for an interview, so we still have a little time yet for that to happen. You're watching Newsmakers from your local election headquarters, and we'll be right back, and we're going to be talking a little bit about some of your voting questions. Newsmakers from your local election headquarters will return right after this.
And welcome back to your local election headquarters. Andy Mehalshick along with producer Jayne and Bugda, and our special guest in this segment, Luzerne County Manager David Pedri and Marissa Crispell, the Director of the Bureau of Elections in Luzerne County. Familiar faces if you watch any kind of current events in Luzerne County, especially when it's election related. Let's start with David. David, we heard about a mandate from Governor Wolf about upgrading voting machines across the Commonwealth. It was a big deal. We're talking big money. Where does Luzerne County stand with that?
Well, listen, Governor Wolf put out this mandate that we need a paper trail ballot system for every county across the Commonwealth. This is something that Luzerne County supports. We think it's a good idea. We would like these paper trail machines. The question is, how do we pay for it? Luzerne County, a county of about 320,000 people, we're talking about $4 million for our machines. There's no grants out there. We're seeking federal funds as most as we possibly can, but it's a ongoing process, and we're concerned about it. Does it fall back on the Luzerne County taxpayers in order to fund a state mandate? One we support, one we want to help out with, we want to be involved in, but the question is, how are we going to pay for it and how are we going to get there?
And I think another concern is a lot of people think when we're talking about voting, we're hearing a lot about security. So are our votes secure?
Our votes are definitely secure, not only in Luzerne County, but throughout the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. A part of the election code requires election administrators to follow certain security procedures. One thing I can say about Luzerne County's election voting machines are that they are not connected to the internet in any way, shape, or form. If you go into your polling place on election day and you happen to see machines being strung with cords, they're not communicating to each other. They're not speaking to each other in any way, shape, or form. In addition to having them on a secured network, we also program them on a secured network. There is no way that anybody can hack into any of our programming or any of our voting systems in Luzerne County. And after every election, we conduct an audit. 2% audit is required in the election code, and we follow that.
Marissa, we were talking before about also making sure that the votes are counted. How do you reassure the folks at home to say that there can't be mistakes, there are electronic machines? How is the double check to make sure their votes count?
Well, part of voting on election day is on the iVotronic. As you're making your selections, it's going to highlight that box that you selected. Say, for instance, the person below that candidate that you selected or a person above that candidate that you selected happens to be highlighted. You need to bring that to the attention of your district election board members. The judge of elections there will automatically close the doors to that machine, contact technical support. We'll send a rover out to calibrate the screens. You'll be given a new ballot on a brand new machine. What that is just calibration of the screens are a little off.
I mean, machines are machines. I mean, and machines sometimes break and they sometimes need to be recalibrated. I'm thinking about my first generation iPad that I have, and it doesn't really exactly fit the way I want it to be. But you know what? If there's an issue, we fix it and we move forward. Most important thing, our machines are not connected to the internet. So there's going to be no hacking, no changing of votes or anything along those lines.
And we do want to mention that there is one county in the Commonwealth that has upgraded, and that's Susquehanna County. And they achieved this, and we do have a story about this on pahomepage.com, and you'll find that under the Newsmakers League. How did they achieve this?
They were actually a paper ballot county prior to the mandate. I do not know how they achieved purchasing this early Christmas present, but I wish I had that early Christmas present as well. But they're going to be the first county out there to really go through this, and I'm excited to see how they make out.
So they're going to test
the waters. It's very interesting because years ago we were talking about we need electronic voting. Nobody talked about paper. Now all of a sudden what goes around comes around. We're talking about a paper trail. And I guess as a backup for verification, correct?
Correct, but one thing people have to keep in mind is that the iVotronic does have a trail. There is an audit trail. It's an electronic audit trail, but as you're voting on election day, it is recording every single selection, every write-in, everything that you've done on that machine. It's recorded on the flash drive within that machine. There's also 3 different memory sources of an iVotronic. You have the PEB, you have the flash card, and you have the motherboard. So we are tracking it. It's just considered an electronic paper trail, and what Governor Wolf would like is an actual paper trail, something we can physically hold in our hands.
So we've been doing trials with some of these new machines, and I'm a guinea pig, like every other county employee going in there and giving it a shot. The new machines are basically the same as the old machines, but they print out a piece of paper, you review that piece of paper, yes, I agree, this is my vote, and you put it into a machine and you walk out. That step is really what, that second step, that piece of paper is really what we're talking about here. And obviously it's a potentially expensive step. I'm happy Susquehanna County jumped on this. They're probably not $300 million in debt the way Luzerne County is. So we got to look for every dime and every nickel we can.
And I do want to remind everyone, and this is a question just for everyone because we have a new redistricting and everybody's seeing newly formed districts. When they see this, and people may ask, where do I go to vote? You go to the same voting place that you've always gone to, no matter that you're in a new formed district. That is correct?
Correct. You're referring to the congressional redistricting that occurred. So if you're unsure of where you are actually supposed to go vote, you can go onto our webpage. You can search your voter registration that way, or contact our election bureau, and we'll be able to look you up on the system and tell you exactly where you need to go. One of the greatest things that we're actually launching in November is the electronic poll book. And what that electronic poll book is going to do is allow that poll worker to actually print out a slip with an address on it of where you're actually supposed to go vote if you happen to go to the wrong polling place.
Okay. Very quick question. You go to a polling place and, you know, we get inundated with phone calls. We think something's not right here, something's wrong there. Do they follow the proper election code in anywhere across Pennsylvania, but especially say in Luzerne County? What should they do, Marissa, if somebody says, this doesn't seem right to me? They have a question about anything.
The very first thing that a voter should do is contact their actual polling place judge of elections in the polling place at that time. If it's something that can be addressed right then and there, please bring it to the attention of that judge of elections. If you want to further that complaint, you can contact the election bureau, or you can even contact your election bureau to find out if it was handled at the polling place level. And then the third thing you can do is call the 1-877-VOTES-PA that you'll see on the screen.
And just quickly, what is the #1 question you are asked on election day?
So in a November election, you have straight party option in the state of Pennsylvania. And a lot of people are confused, a lot of our voters are confused by what that straight party option is. And when you go into the polls on election day, you're going to see straight party and a list of all of the different parties. People are under the assumption it's asking what your party is at that point. And once you select it on an iVotronic, it automatically selects those party candidates on the rest of your ballot. And that confuses them. Why did my ballot just vote for me? So that's what that straight party option actually is for the voter on election day.
Most important thing is to get out to vote. I mean, we have been doing some great things in Luzerne County. We're trying to get out to vote as most as we possibly can. We're in high schools. I just saw a thing, Uber and Lyft will give out free rides to people for election day, right to the poll. Get out to vote. I mean, when you look at the amount of people that didn't vote in the last year's presidential, in the 2016 presidential election, it's staggering. Please get out to vote, and it's the best opportunity to do so.
Well, Marissa and David, we want to thank you for joining us today.
Yep.
And we remind everyone, for information that you heard today is on pahomepage.com or on the Newsmakers link. Get out to vote. We encourage you to do so. For Andy Mehalshick and everyone behind the scenes, I'm Jayne Bugda. Thank you for making Newsmakers from your local election headquarters part of your day, and we'll talk again next time.